Hello and welcome to episode 244 of the Anywhere But Here podcast. My name's Ant and I'm alone in this intro again, but thankfully I'm not alone on this episode. I'm not joined by Tom because he had a family celebration, which no doubt he'll talk about in episode 245. You can find us on our website, abhpod.com, where on the right hand side you can click on the Amazon banner, go to amazon.co.uk, do any shopping that you need to do for any celebration that may be coming up, or a birthday, or just for yourself, just to give yourself a treat. And Amazon will give us a 5% kickback of your total basket spend. That goes towards our hosting costs and replacing any equipment we might need to do, and it allows us to keep putting these episodes out for free for you. If you don't do any shopping on Amazon and you still want to support us, or you don't have any Amazon shopping to do, you can support us on Patreon. The banner is just below the Amazon banner. It costs $1 a month. You get bonus content. You get after the podcasts if we record them. They're exclusive to our Patreon supporters. You get spoiler casts when we record them. There is an Avengers Endgame spoiler cast because there's no way we're not going to spoil that. It's up there now. Our patrons get to listen to it early. It will come out on this main feed eventually when we need to put out a banked episode. So there's that. You know, you get it a bit early. All of these audio content that we put out on Patreon gets delivered via your own special RSS feed that you get when you sign up to Patreon. You put that in your podcast app that you use on your phone or MP3 player or your computer, and it will deliver all the audio content, including this main episode, without the intro. So it's nice and convenient for you. Patrons also get early access to our YouTube videos when we record them. Like I say, when we record them, which we will do again. We will start doing it again. We promise. We keep saying it. It does happen eventually. But they get them a little bit earlier than non-patron supporters. So there's that bonus as well. Like I say, it's $1 a month. You can support us for a bit more than that if you wish to. There's an option to put extra in there. We would appreciate that as well. You can find us on facebook.com/ABHpod. You can find us on Twitter @ABHpod. And we do have an email address, abhpod@gmail.com, if you want to contact us privately. I don't know why you would. Tell us all your dirty secrets, that sort of thing. The YouTube channel that I mentioned earlier is youtube.com/ABH Podcast. It's the only one with cast on the end of it. On this episode, as I say, I'm not on my own. I do have someone with me. This time we're joined by Andrew, our friend from over there in North Carolina, I believe it is. He was gracious enough to answer the call that I put out there onto our Facebook group, our little private Pod Pals Facebook group, #PodPals. That's still a thing. We talk all sorts of things. We just have a general catch up because it's been too long since we caught up. We talk about things we're watching on Netflix. We talk about Avengers Endgame, all sorts of things, nerdy stuff, geeky stuff. We even get into a bit of dating. Sorry, I'm not stepping on your toes there, Kelly. Somehow it also gets onto abortion. I can only apologise for that, but it's an important subject that's going on over in the States at the minute. It's going on all over the world, but specifically it's going on in the States at the minute. But let's get into it. I'm already talking to Andrew. You join us at that point where we're just catching up, so enjoy. This is how we go now.
Yeah.
I know. Like the other week, you offered to come on and stuff like that, but this morning I was like, he's probably still going to be asleep, so I'm not going to send like the invite out directly to you.
Oh man!
So I just put it out in the group.
Yeah, no worries. Like I said, I've been keeping very weird hours lately anyway. So if you just shoot it out, I either have my phone on Do Not Disturb, or if I wake up because of notification, I just have to blame myself for not putting it on Do Not Disturb. So.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. So you're working long hours now, are you? You're working late and early.
Well, like this. I'm working pretty much the same hours that I was. It's just I just don't sleep as much. That way I don't. That way I don't miss anything. While sitting around just waiting for something to happen.
Yeah, a bit of light insomnia. Yeah, never hurt anyone. Yeah.
Get some good reading done. Get some Netflix binging done. So.
Yeah, I've seen on Facebook and things you've been sort of going through everything Netflix has to offer.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I'm now on the final episode of the latest season of Lucifer, so that's fun.
Okay, I never I never got into Lucifer.
Did you ever watch it? Did you ever try watching it, or?
No, I don't think so. It's not the sort of thing that appealed to me. Like, I don't think. I mean, because having like the family, and now like with my new job, I don't know what day of the week or what time of the day it is anymore. Fair. So when it comes to watching things, it's a case of, is that something I'd be happy to watch and not enjoy? Do you know what I mean? So I have to look at it, and am I likely to enjoy that? You know, if the case is probably not, then I won't invest the time in it. Whereas I used to be able to just try things out. Yeah, so it's one of those strange things. So I don't think Lucifer's one of those ones that appeal to me.
I mean,
I know people do really like it.
It's a very, I mean, it's based on a story by Neil Gaiman, and where basically, you know, Lucifer, you know, has been on Earth, and he ends up getting acclimated, and he's got a nightclub, and it's just, he ends up helping out the Los Angeles Police Department, and becomes enthralled in it, and starts to, you know, he really likes humans. He's very misunderstood, and there's all this story that goes around. It's the relationships are pretty good, and the story is interesting because he basically comes through this existential crisis. He's like, am I bad? I know that I've been written that way, but you know, am I really bad? And it's like, sometimes it's like, oh yeah, you are. And then other times it's just like, well, so
yeah, it's just kind of like the redeemed villain, but like you say, misunderstood. So it's if it's Gaiman, I probably would like it then.
I mean, if you have an opportunity, I definitely say give it a shot. But if you've already got a laundry list of things to watch, I completely understand.
Yeah, we're probably 4 or 5 episodes into Umbrella Academy, which is one of those. I'm not sure if I like it. It's compelling. Like I do kind of want to see what it's all about. It's very strange.
It's very strange, but it's definitely right up my alley. The storytelling is insanely dense. Like, you watch about an hour's worth of an episode, and you're like, okay, this is happening. This person was introduced, and then that person died, but then they came back. It's just, what's happening here?
Yeah, no, but it's great. Like, it's got a few actors and actors. Like, I love Ellen Page anyway. But then I don't know the actor's name, but he's the British guy. He was in Misfits,
Robert Sheehan,
one with the curly hair. Is that his name? Robert Sheehan. Yeah, he plays the sort of druggy brother. Sort of.
He seems to play that role really well, where he's just kind of the one that everyone's pissed off at, and sometimes rightfully so.
Yeah, definitely outcast for good reason. But then he's extremely useful because he can contact the dead and find out things.
Which then lends itself to why he is an outcast, and why he goes through the drugs and all that.
Why he turned to drugs to sort of numb the get rid of the dead, so to speak, or be able to cope with it. Yeah, it's quite an intricate character, really, when you think of it in terms of that. But it's one of those, I enjoy it enough to keep watching it. And Liz the other night last night, I think it was. She went, "Should we watch one?" And I was like, "I don't know if I really like it." And she's like, "Yeah, but I want to know what happens." I've got this fear though that it's one of those things that you like. I've not finished it yet, so I don't really know. So you probably all of the questions won't be answered. Q season 2. I imagine it's going to be one of those things.
Bigger questions. I mean, just like the ones that are overarching the season itself. But for instance, I still don't know what the deal is with the father. And in fact, there's a scene at the beginning of the very last episode of the season where it's like, you better go into that further in season 2. It's just something that it just seems out of place, but is it? So, not spoiling anything.
Do you know what though? No. But I was watching it, and it was reminding me of something else, and I couldn't place my finger. I couldn't put my finger on it, and I think you just reminded me by saying about the father. We started watching Titans, and it's kind of like the father in this with all the kids. It's similar to like the Explorer in Titans with the mutants that he's got, and he sort of does experiments on or injects them and saves their lives. Yeah, we never finished Titans.
I've not actually watched that. It's just is that the one that's on DC, the DC network, or is that?
Yeah, but it's on Netflix over here.
Oh, okay.
So we can watch it on Netflix. It's probably different over there, licensing, distribution issues.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, we can watch it on Netflix here. So we started to watch it, and it is good. Like I probably would carry on watching it myself.
I've heard
it's again, it's one of those intricate things. It's a bit weird. It's not like it's one of those weird ones where you know the characters, but they're not the characters you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's strange. Like, you know, Robin's completely different. Dick Grayson's a completely different guy.
That's what I've heard.
But that's, I suppose, that what makes it interesting.
Right. The take on the character.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Cool.
But I think that seems to be DC's thing these days. Like with Jared Leto's Joker, it's kind of Joker, but it's not the Joker you know.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, there's been lots of different Jokers. So
which one is the real one? Or is it a take on it?
Exactly.
Or,
yeah.
But then again, that goes with the
he's...
Joker backstory. It's like, you know, they don't really have a solidified one. Is he the Red Hood? Is he this other thing? So you can pretty much do whatever you want with him.
And I think that's where they're sort of going with this Joaquin Phoenix version of Joker, isn't it? It's completely different.
Yeah,
but
I didn't...
like, to me, that... Oh, go ahead.
I didn't know if I mean, when they first released the original teaser of just like the 10-second thing where you just see him as the droopy guy, and then they do the flash to his face, and it's like, you know, smile, and I'm like, I don't know about this. But then when they released the actual teaser trailer for it, I'm like, oh, okay, I might go see this film. We'll see how this goes.
Yeah, it's one of those things again. In terms, like I like the look of the film, but not. But I'm trying to sort of separate the fact it's supposed to be the Joker. Like I'm trying to, because it looks like a really, really interesting sort of character study,
right?
Type film. Like, but he's not necessarily my Joker. Hashtag not my Joker. You know. But he looks like a really interesting character, and he's a good actor, and it looks like a really great story.
Right.
Like, sort of, kind of how the world, if you're sort of like an outcast guy, how the world can sort of turn you into this psychopath, I suppose, just by the way they treat you.
Yeah, I mean that's fair.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, we sort of just kept going, didn't we? How have you been anyway? Other than the sort of insomnia and the working and waking up and
no, it's good
reading.
It's I mean, well, that's covered it right there. No, it's been good. Just been well, today is Mother's Day over here, and so
it is over there, isn't it?
Yeah. In fact, it's really funny because I think y'all's is a little earlier in the year. And every time I work in retail, so I should know better. But every time I see Happy Mother's Day on Twitter and Facebook for all my my English UK friends, it's just, I'm like, oh damn, have I fucked up again? Like, I'm like, oh my god, what have I got? Oh, my mom's not gonna think I love her, and I love my mama. And but no. So today was Mother's Day. I got to FaceTime with my mom for a little bit. She's in California, visiting my brother.
Oh, okay.
And his family, they had a baby boy toward the beginning of the year, and so this is the first time that she's meeting him, and then seeing my little niece, who's about 3 years old, spending time with them. So it's good. She doesn't get to be grandma all that much, but times like this she gets to, and she absolutely enjoys it. So, but been good. Work has been crazy. I was telling my mom earlier that. The shopping, the retail experience the week or so before Mother's Day is almost as bad as Christmas, because it's like, you want to prove that you love your mama, but then it's like the way that people act. It's like, should I tell my mom on you? Should I tell your mom on you? Like, let her know that while you were buying this necklace for her, you were really not a shining example of the way that she raised you, or maybe she is. I don't know. Yeah. Well, Tom and myself, we used to work retail as well, so we've seen it. We've seen the worst of people. We've seen the best of people. It's when people are out shopping, it's really telling of the type of person they really are. Yeah. I mean, you get the classic character. I imagine you get it the same over there. You got, there's the people that always want to complain about everything. Oh,
just they want something to complain about. Right. There's the people who want to return something 2 years after they.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, you get people who want to return. Where I work, it's a department store, and so you get all walks. I mean, literally, people are returning shoes that are 3 years old. The sole is flapping off, and it's like, what's wrong with these? Well, look at them, and it's like, yeah, but you wore them for 3 years. Like, you can tell. In fact, I had a customer a little while ago. School had just started back. It was December when this took place, and the school started around late July, early August, and I guess this parent had bought shoes for their kid, and 4 months later, they wanted to return them or do an exchange for them. Well, what's wrong with them? Well, they're worn. And it's like, well, yeah. And in fact, at the time, the kid was wearing the shoes. So, of course, they were worn. And it's like, well, this is what happens when you send your kid to school wearing these shoes. So.
Yeah. But they expect them to just remain pristine for the whole lifetime.
I guess.
That's great. That's crazy. We actually, I worked in a store once, and we had, I worked in the back in the sort of warehouse. It was, I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's called Argos. And it's one where they sort of make the purchase out on the shop floor. Okay. And then they take their ticket to the counter, and then we collect the item from the warehouse and bring it out to the front for them. So there's no products really on the shop floor. It's sort of display cabinets and sort of
like catalog.
Bill Bailey calls it the laminated book of dreams. Is and that's what he's talking about. So, but we had someone return an item. They brought, I think it was a hi-fi or something. They brought the box, put it on the counter, and it's nice and heavy. It's obviously got the product in, and then the manager said, could you take this out the back and check it for us, make sure it's working? We opened it and it was just full of bricks. Like they try to return items that aren't even
we've had that a few
anymore.
times.
Like trying to get away with anything.
It's amazing. It's just wow.
Yeah.
Just to save like $30
we
or
actually, so. Yeah, it's not even limited to like products like that. We went to Leeds Castle. It's not a real castle, funnily enough. So I don't know why it's called Leeds Castle. but we went there yesterday, and they have like a coffee shop, and it was that busy that the coffee shop, they couldn't actually use the ceramic mugs and things because they couldn't wash them up fast enough. They couldn't clean them fast enough for all the customers. So there was a customer that wanted to order their 2 Americanos, and they want their milk on the side, and can we have them in the ceramic cups? And the person was like, no, sorry, we're too busy. We're just using the takeaway cups. And they're like, well, that's ridiculous. That's not very sustainable. That's not environmentally friendly. Oh, we're going to make a complaint about it. Can we have our milk in separate cups, please? And so hang on a second. So you're complaining that it's not sustainable, yet you're asking for a separate cup for your milk. So you're now using twice as many cups as you should be.
That's the logic right there.
So it's, it's ridiculous. But they wanted something to complain about. So they did. They still wanted their coffee, and they wanted to use twice as many cups as they needed to.
It's such a culture of entitlement. It's amazing. I mean, where I work, we have these cash coupons, and coupons, they have expiration periods. They have a whole date range, and it's like you can use it between this date and this date. And we know that people forget to use these coupons. So the way that my company works is that if you get to the last day and you forget and you're like, oh, I wanted to spend this $10, $20, $30, whatever, we give you a grace period of about 10 days after the expiration period, but it's in store only. I mean, and it's a grace period. We're being gracious, and we're saying, okay, we understand that people forget, but then you get these people who come in with a coupon that let's say it's May now, they come in with a coupon from December. And they're like, well, I completely forgot about this. It's like, well, you had 5 months to throw it away. There's nothing we can do about it. Well, it's $50. Well, it was until it expired. And people just throw they throw a hissy fit. And I've talked to my bosses, and I'm like, if people get so upset about this, we should have, speaking of milk, we should have a spoiled milk policy where if a customer comes in with an expired coupon, let's just say they want to throw a fit. It's like, okay, we'll take your expired coupon if you drink this cup of expired milk. It's like it's the whole concept. It's like, this isn't necessarily something that you would ingest, but it's still an expiration period. So, I mean,
if this coupon's still good, then so must this milk.
That there is a best by date for a reason. Go. It's like, come on,
let's see.
All right.
Yeah. Oh, okay. It just reminds me of the Friends episode with the fat.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh God, that was one of the first episodes I watched, and it sticks with me because
I actually quoted Friends at work the other day. I'm like, I want to quit the gym. I don't go to a gym. Someone else was talking about going to a gym, and I was like, the only reason why I would apply for a gym is so I could go in and do the whole "I want to quit the gym" sequence. But, Friends.
Yeah. See if anyone picks up on it. Find like-minded people. Yeah, I think the fact that you've got a 10-day grace period is like that's not something we do over here. Like if it's expired, it's expired. We don't, in this country, I don't think there is a grace period like you have over there. So that's more than you need to do.
I mean, the fact that we give you a date range that normally, at the very least, is about a week and a half. I mean, you have days and you have options to use it. You don't have to use it in store. You can use it online. You have options, and also you have the option not to use it. It's not like we gave you a physical, crisp $10 bill and then it evaporates once once the expiration period is over. It's more of a reward as a thank you for shopping with us. And yeah, it's a way to get you back in and spend more money, but it's a give and take.
So with those coupons, like the ones you're talking about, so this is so I'm curious about listening about it now. So is it you can come in and spend this coupon, like there's no catch?
I mean, aside from the date range, the date period to use it, because basically the way that it works is on a previous purchase, if you spend a certain amount, you earn this coupon, and for every increment of that amount that you spend, you get a $10 addition added on to that coupon. And so when that date range begins, you can go in and basically it acts as cash. Where if let's say you have $10, but you only want to pick up something that's $5, you just use that coupon and then you still have $5 left to use while that period is still going.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And so it's definitely a great way to, it's a great reward system. It's just people want to, screw around with the system and they want to use it, take advantage of it and try to manipulate it however they can. But it's like, well, our computer system won't let it. And we have this whole policy where it's like, if it scans, we'll take it. If it doesn't, we won't. So
yeah. So even if they wanted to spend it, the system wouldn't take it anyway. Yeah, it's just because I don't know if we have anything like that here. Occasionally you do, but it's never for a huge amount of money. The most we get with like these reward vouchers, I suppose we call them, is sort of like, here's a voucher. If you spend X amount, you get sort of 10% off, and that's this purchase only. So it's not like you can come in and use it on its own as cash. You have to buy other stuff.
Well, we do have coupons like that,
and then you get money off of that purchase. Yeah. But I don't know if we get sort of like the shopping vouchers as a reward that you're describing.
Well, I agree with that policy. Let's just get it out of the way entirely.
Yeah, spend money, get money off. Yeah. It's weird. It's kind of like, you've spent lots of money, but here, have something for free, sort of take it away. It seems like it's going to eat into profits.
To an extent it does, but then it's the idea of you're only getting a fraction of what you've spent, with the idea that you're going to spend more over the later
or something. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's that customer loyalty, isn't it? So, I like shopping here. They give me money. So they keep coming and spending and consumerism. Yay. Isn't it great? It's evil, but isn't it great?
If you can make it work for yourself and still be within the lines of the rules, that's a very tricky thing. I mean, having worked in retail for most of my work career, I mean, I'm going on almost 20 years of working in retail. I take my experiences on one side of the counter and utilize those for when I'm on the other side of the counter. So I'm like, okay, if I go to a McDonald's and it's lunchtime, I'm not going to get pissed when I'm in a long line. Or if I see a sales sign for something, I'm going to actually look at it and see, okay, is this still an active sale? And is this item that I'm looking at what is actually on sale? But
there was I don't know if I've told this story before, where I worked on it was a seasonal sort of pop-up store, and they sold calendars, and after Christmas or after the New Year, they're like, okay, all calendars half price, and that's what the sign said. All calendars half price, all items half price, because we sold diaries as well. It's like everything half price. And then you wouldn't believe, you probably would, daily, the amount of people that would come up and say, is this half price? Or they bring it to you and they'd say, how much is this? And you're kind of like, well, look at the price. It's half of that. But just daily, people just coming up, is this in the sale? Is this in the sale? Yes, everything is in the sale. Everything there. Oh, how much does it cost? Half of what it says. Yeah, but
I always like to say, because what is math?
Just remembering it just pains me. Like, you seem to thrive in that environment. You seem to enjoy working there, and it just pains me.
It is painful, but it's definitely material for when I finally write my memoirs. And it's just one of those things where it's like, and I go back, and that whole thing about what price is this? It always reminds me of the scene from Clerks, where they're asking, how much is this? And then they zoom out, and you find that behind the character is just like this huge sign. It's just 99 cents, 99 cents, 99 cents. And I'm like, oh, this is all too real. This is all too real.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you've heard, like, we've spoken about them quite a lot, the All-Seeing Guys.
Those guys?
Like, they're in the same boat as us. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Have you never heard of them, though? We've mentioned them once or twice. But they have similar stories as well, and it's just one of those things. When we eventually do have them on, that's what the conversation will be. I think it will just be all retail horror.
I think it's a universal thing that customers suck. So
yeah, that's what I've always said. I don't like working with the public. The public is stupid.
That's a fair assessment.
And then people. Yeah, and then people are like, aren't you the public?
So I know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I am. Yeah, exactly.
I can say that because I have experience.
Yeah. But it's the weird thing. I've always said I don't like working with people. People are stupid. And now my job is specifically to work with people. Like, that's the career I've gone into.
I think it's a different. I think it's a different angle where it's, you work with people with
very different.
With issues that can be looked at from a medical basis. The people that I deal with, they're just assholes. And so sometimes in order to get me through the day, sometimes I have to wonder, is this something that's a medical issue? And it helps me give perspective where it's just like, okay, this guy's being an asshole. I'm going to assume that there's something medically wrong with this person. I don't want to assume that people are horrible unless otherwise. Bring in your credentials. Oh, you're not?
Are they drooling because they're ill, or are they drooling because they just don't know how to function?
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, I just bring back so many memories and so many headaches. It's
fun times.
I don't like people. So it's been a while since we've had. How long has it been since we've had you on now? It must be like over a year now,
I think.
Oh no, we had you on
after the podcast for Christmas. Yeah, I had just gotten done with I think a Christmas shift or something, and
yeah. But you haven't actually been on the main episode, the main feed.
No, this looks weird. It's just there's more room here.
There's more room. Yeah. You're not limited to the number of people that are listening. So. What is happening? Because of my job now, I think my podcast listening, my intake is like, I don't know, it's got like 90% now. Like 90, like it's gone down 90%. It's like 10% of what I used to listen to. So lots of stuff has gone by the wayside, and unfortunately, lots of stuff that I used to love listening to. So what is going on with you podcasting wise now, or? Sort of
aside from, like this, just hopping on and getting to, catch up and everything, right now it's just kind of as I probably said the last time, we spoke about a year and a half ago or so. Just a current podcast hiatus. Kelly and I, we were working on Mating Habits Presents, and we had some ideas for it. We have a Google sheet that has all these types of ideas, where what we wanted to do was incorporate the Mating Habits of the Modern Geek podcast into a video format, and basically still record the episodes of Mating Habits of the Modern Geek with a video aspect to it, maybe cut down the video with interspersed like little skits and whatnot. And so we had started recording. We did a test run. We actually were able to release a video around Christmas about us building gingerbread houses, and that turned out to be a fun thing.
Yeah, I saw that one. Yeah.
But then some things happened in both of our personal lives, and we kind of had to, put those on the back burner. And so hopefully maybe by the end of the year we'll be able to get back up with where we were and the ideas, and kind of get that fervor back again, because she and I were really into it. I mean, she would come into town and we would meet at the mall that's across the way from where I live and have kind of like a brainstorming session, have lunch or whatever, and get some ideas down, what we would like to see, what we would like to do, get certain other podcast friends involved. But aside from that, I've just mainly been listening. I've been doing a lot of listening to a podcast called This American Life, which is, I'm all about stories, and it's amazing. I've gotten sucked into that because I had initially started listening to Serial, which I absolutely love. And it's I've listened to that series, all 3 seasons, about 3 or 4 times. And so I was like, let me listen to something new. Wow. And, once I've listened to, your guys' new episode twice or 3 times, I'm like, let me just, kind of get myself right.
Why would you do that?
I enjoy listening to mates talking, and I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm in the room.
Yeah.
And but aside from that,
and sometimes
exactly, and tweeting and whatnot. Yeah. And but aside from that, I've been trying to get back into writing. I've been doing a lot more writing ever since the new year, and just whatever random story pops into my head. In fact, I posted one today for Mother's Day about conversing with my mother on the phone and her little idiosyncrasies and things like that. And I posted it, and she messaged me. She's like, "Of course I cried," and I'm like, well, it was supposed to be funny. And she's like, oh, I laughed, but I cried because it was written about me. And it's like, so, but getting into that.
And it's real.
Yeah. So, but aside from that, just, kind of still trying to be active on at least social media, getting into contact with people, sending little gift comments, and, blowing up people's feeds when I listen to episodes, and I'm like, oh, I have feelings about this. So.
Yeah. We actually directly asked you quite a few questions. It was the Endgame spoiler cast, wasn't it? Where we directly asked questions.
Yeah, and I have a draft that is still open ever since I listened to that episode, and I've got kind of a dissertation going. So, and I'm like, ooh, and then this, and then this.
Lots of comments.
It's coming your way. So,
yeah, because we're going round and round, like Tom and myself. It's like, but how? How did that end up where it was? And I know there's an answer that we're both completely missing. But, I'm sure you've got the answer.
If not, I'll make it up, and I'll make it sound good, too. So.
Oh, okay, brilliant. Yeah.
That's kind of my thing.
That's good.
So
then.
I'm just like, this makes sense here.
Yeah. So I take it you did watch Endgame.
Yeah, I watched it the Saturday opening weekend. So I was like, okay, I hadn't planned on seeing it opening weekend because I used to work at a movie theater. I know how opening weekends go, and I still have friends who are in upper management of in the movie theater industry, and they were talking about how pretty much, every auditorium was taken up. So you have a cinema that is advertising 10, maybe 12 different films that they're showing, and then that weekend it's like they had pretty much every auditorium slated for Endgame showings, but 2, where they put all those other 10. As like a showing a piece. It's like, oh, you want to watch this film? Oh, it's only got 1 showing at 3:45 in the afternoon. But I hadn't planned on seeing it. But then I saw that the theater down the road from me had a standard showing every half hour. I was like, okay, well, I'm pretty sure I'll get a ticket for that. And I did, and I enjoyed it. I cried. I laughed and I cried. I had feelings.
Yeah. There's no way you can't. If you've invested the last 10 years. It's 10 years, isn't it? If you've invested the last 10 years in this series, there's no way you can watch it without crying.
Yeah. It's definitely a love letter to the last 10 years. If you're that sort of person.
Yeah. And it definitely pays off as well. Like there's no disappointment.
Oh, I was absolutely enamored with it. I was one of those people. I liked Infinity War. I didn't get out of it what I think the majority of people did, but I think it was also because I knew that this film was coming out. So it was like, okay, well, I'm going to invest my emotions in that, in the in the legitimate conclusion.
It can't have ended. It can't have ended in the way they wanted you to think it ended, because this film's coming.
And so it's like, okay,
But,
I'll just hold off on feeling feels. Yes, that was okay. The little bits that here and there, it's like, okay, but how are they going to resolve most of those in this film? They're going to do something, and what they did with it, I thought was very, very well done.
And it sets you up.
Mm-hmm.
It sets up this the new arc.
Oh yes,
to be a lot bigger, because now you've introduced sort of that element of how. It's so hard not to. I mean, the Russo brothers said spoiler territory's out of it, but I still don't. I understand. There's people that can't afford cinema tickets because they're ridiculously expensive.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but
and there's people waiting.
Yeah, people waiting. You've got people. I mean, my mother, she loved Infinity War, and she's really looking forward to seeing Endgame. But she's not one to. She's like, I'm not going to last 3 hours in a film. Because me, I'm like I'm eating and drinking all the time, and so when I finally decided to order tickets, I acted as though I was prepping for surgery. Like the night before, I stopped eating. Before 9, I didn't have anything to drink before 9. I was like, no, I'm gonna make sure that I am not going to need to get up at any point in this entire film, and it worked, and I was able to watch the entire thing. But she's like, I'm not going to be able to see it in the theater.
Yeah, I managed not to. We sort of staved off the food and drink a few hours beforehand. Made sure we'd been at least 2 or 3 times before we left to go to the cinema. Went just before we walked into the screen. You just sort of, this is it. I had a drink. Usually, like, you finish the drink about a third of the way into the film. This drink lasted me the whole film. I was just taking it easy. I was only ingesting liquids as fast as my body
You were doing it through osmosis. You're like, there
was no excess yet. Yeah, there was no sort of like just drinking to excess. And it was an enjoyable experience. It didn't feel like 3 hours.
I mean, the pace was fantastic. The story kept you riveted. I mean, when Civil War came out, I was worried that all those characters, and it was only about 12 at the time, all those characters were going to take away from the story and from what you're supposed to be feeling. And I was like, oh, this is just flashy and shiny from what's going on. I mean, but then this multiplies it by 3-4 times, and it's like, and they still managed to keep you just in it. And they did a great job.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think was it Tom who said, like, when you look back at Civil War and you see that airport fight, like when you first watch it, you're like, oh, wow, this is amazing. There's so many of them all doing this fight. And then you watch this and you're like, oh, okay.
It's like Endgame said, hold my beer, and just went with
it. Yeah, that's that scene.
Yeah.
Chills the whole time. Even just thinking about it now, chills. It's fantastic. Yeah, so... excuse me. So you're just sort of keeping your creative juices flowing through sort of writing now.
Trying to, trying to get into that, because I've just had a real just kind of. I was like, I need to be doing something, and people are always telling me you should write more, and it's like, okay, about what?
So you did. Yeah, this is where I want to. I've always thought I've got a story in me. I want to write a story. And then I had that idea for a podcast a while ago, and I think you sort of jumped on and said you like that idea, and then Netflix was kind of like, hold my beer.
Yeah, exactly.
As you would say. You want to do it with audio? We're going to do
it with everything else.
Yeah, I've still not watched Bandersnatch. Actually.
It was good. I only watched it one time.
Yeah,
it was good.
But to be fair, I've only ever watched the first episode of any of those.
Really?
What was the main run called? What was
Black Mirror?
Black Mirror, that's it. I've only actually watched the first episode. I've not watched any more.
Really?
Yeah. But I really enjoyed it. It was really interesting. Like, sort of concept of what the guy's doing. It's Charlie Brooker.
Yeah, yeah. It's
sort of the way he's sort of saying, look, this is modern life. This is how it could get. In that particular episode, anyway, this is how dangerous it could be.
Oh yeah, I mean, and
it's very.
It gets very. I mean, it's dark, but it's one of those things where it's like at the time it was definitely, you can compare it to like a modern day Twilight Zone. where the twists are like, oh damn, like we're doing that right now. One of the more popular, at least at the time when the first couple seasons came out, was White Bear. And you think, you're watching this and you think one thing's happening, but then it turns out to be something completely different. And you're like, were I in that situation, I would be, one of the people that I'm like, oh, they're horrible people. And it's like, I don't want to think that way about myself. But you can definitely see, I mean, the writing is really good and the acting is really good. There's one episode, the Christmas special, the White Christmas episode with John Hamm is really good. And, and it's good. It's a good series.
The one I'm interested to see is it, I can't remember exactly what the not gimmick, I don't want to say gimmick, but the whole thing is it where people walk around with their ratings or something? It's like a social media.
That was Nosedive. It was the one where every interaction that you have can affect your rating overall in society. And that was the one with Bryce Dallas Howard. Seems like it's really interesting.
Oh, I really like that.
Yeah, it was really interesting because you see all these things where it's like you smile at somebody and then either they like your smile, they think you're pretty, and they'll give you like 5 stars. But if they're like, oh, don't smile at me, they'll give you 3 stars, and it knocks you. And how you react to it can also affect your rating, and it's interesting.
Wow. Yeah, I really like the sound of that. Like that concept just seems really terrifying.
Yep.
But also really interesting. It's this whole thing because I've never dated in like the modern age, like with the Tinder profiles and things like that, where people it's just face value stuff.
Yeah.
That terrifies me. That
well, as someone who has recently utilized it, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, you put yourself out there and yes, you're on the side saying, well, I want to be accepted, but then you're going through and you're going, swipe left. Oh, this person I might like, swipe right.
Yeah.
You have to, it's the whole perspective thing where it's like, you're doing the exact same thing that other people are doing to you. So get over yourself and maybe you'll meet a match.
Yeah. True. Yeah, it's true. But then again, it does also, it sort of breaks down that wall as well, because then you can sort of see common interests and things like that, don't you? So you've got something there already, so you don't have that awkward phase of learning about each other. But then again, that's also one of the exciting parts of sort of dating, isn't it?
I mean, that is one of the catches to it, where if you set up a quote unquote relationship or a dialogue online. I'm one of those rare guys who will, when I'm looking at profiles, I will actually read the profile just to see, what they're into. We may have a 95% match, but if your headline is "I love Jesus," I'm like, I'm just okay. Congratulations, you have your faith, but I have a feeling that when we dance, we're going to have to make space for him, in the old middle school fashion. But there are times when you'll look at a profile and it's like, we're 93%, but this person likes, going outdoors and camping, and they go to church and they do all these things that I definitely said that I don't do. So how do we match that much? And everything is just that on the face value of it. And do you want to risk, reaching out and saying, hey, I saw that we matched 93%, but we don't match on anything else. What's the deal? Are you a lizard person just trying to, make your way through, to make yourself off like a human, and something wrong happened with the algorithm? I don't know. What's your deal?
Yeah. They reply like they're the Reddit bot.
Exactly.
That sort of, the machine that's pretending to be human.
Yeah. They've got like some weird name and then 12 numbers after their name, and their username is like, you seem fake. But it's been interesting.
No, that definitely terrifies me. But back to that whole thing I said about like when I want to write, and then I had that idea for the sort of choose your own podcast. But it's something I really, really, really want to do, and it's something I even toyed with. Like this morning when I put that post up, and 10 minutes later nobody replied, and I was like, they've all rejected me, because I feel like people should respond straight away. We live on the internet.
I'm right there with you, man.
And I was like, okay, right, maybe I could sort of like knock up a quick story and record. I'm like, and then like I thought to myself, well, what are you talking about? That's not how it works.
Right.
You can't just do that. Like, I haven't written a story in years, since school, possibly even, and I'm just going to knock up a story quickly. That's not how it works. But it's just my idea, like my grand plan of how I want to do it is it's so daunting. The fact like I want to make it maybe 6 to 10 parts, depending on the choices people make, but I want to write and record every option,
right?
So it's available for people elsewhere, possibly Patreon, so people can download the whole lot of it and just go through it multiple times and see if they can get a better ending.
Right.
But that whole idea terrifies me. Like just sort of trying to sort of write all of that and record it. It's just a huge task.
Oh, I get it.
Even if it is only like 8 to 10 minutes an episode.
Yeah, I get it. A friend of mine that I've known since high school, he messaged me up one day last year and was basically like, hey man, I've been listening to this podcast. I don't know if you've ever played D&D, which I haven't, but I understand the concept.
Yeah.
I mean, I watch Stranger Things, so I kind of know a little bit about it. But anyway, he's been listening to this podcast where these guys and girls, they basically play their own written role-playing game where it takes place within like the Burger King industry. And
oh my God.
And it was, I mean, it's a funny, when you start off, it's pretty funny. I kind of lost track of it, but basically through listening to that podcast, he got this idea where he wanted to do his own role-playing thing. And he was like, I think you would be great for it, helping me out with these story ideas and things like that. I'm like, oh, cool, great. And we would, for about 2.5, 3 weeks, we're going back and forth and we're messaging each other. We're sending each other emails. I'm sending him these different graphs and all these things that I've written up and drawings and, little snapshots of notes on napkins and things like that. And it was this whole thing, and we were so excited for it. But then it just got to this point where he found out his wife was pregnant and things were going on over here. And it was just like, oh God, like, and we'd put so much thought into it that it was just like, oh my God, this is a behemoth idea. How do we even get started on it? And it kind of fizzled away. I mean, I still have everything in case we want to go back to it, but it was just one of those, you had that spark there. And my only, unsolicited advice is if you ever have that spark, then, if you have an idea to write something, just write it down and see where it takes you. That's where all my story ideas, a lot of the ones that I have, most of my stories are basically long form jokes, where the very last bit is going to be the punchline. And one story in particular, if you haven't read it, is a story that I'm actually really proud of called Free Space, where the idea was this guy is picked up, he's hitchhiking, and this guy's picked up by these truck drivers. And the whole idea around it is, you see those horror movies where both sides can be killers, or can be, something's not right with either side. You pick up the hitchhiker and they're probably a killer, or you're hitchhiking and the people that you end up riding with will probably kill you at the end of it. It's that whole idea. And I wasn't even watching anything in particular, like, you have those movies like Breakdown, which is pretty much about that old movie from back in the 90s. But I think I was watching like some random TV show, and there just happened to be a truck driving past, and someone was on the road, and I was like, let's set this idea. And I was like, ooh, I need to go with that. And I paused whatever I was watching and then just sat down for 2-3 hours and just wrote.
Wow.
That's it. Sometimes if you get too far into your head, you can kind of talk yourself out of it, which I'm trying not to do these days.
That's a really, really interesting idea, though. It's kind of like, which one's the killer? Because initially my mind went to, is it Tucker and Dale versus Evil?
Yes.
Where you kind of think the guys are killers, but actually what ends up happening is the kids are getting killed on accident and things like that. But
it's through their own doing.
Your idea was the fact that either one of them could be the killer, and I imagine they're both suspicious of each other, and you sort of get into that.
Right.
Yeah, that's a really interesting concept. The idea of doing like a choose your own thing, though, is like I can't even write a straight sort of point-to-point story at the moment. Like that's not something we're doing. So to write a story that starts somewhere and it can go in multiple directions, so you've got multiple endings, and you're thinking, okay, so if they choose this, where's that going to? And it's finding a subject that would actually benefit from being a choose-your-own-adventure story. And sort of you've got to start and you've got to come up with 2 or 3 different endings, and you can get there 5 or 6 different ways for each one. It's just it's a lot, isn't it? There's a lot involved in that.
Well, I think there is and there isn't. I think there's at least from where I'm sitting, I'm thinking the best way to probably go about it is figure out where you want to start, and then figure out. Think of where you want to start and think of where you want to end, and then just kind of fill it in between. That way you have your main points. But then and even if you go off the rails, it's going to be a story where it's just like, oh, this is ridiculous. Like the story that you and Tom read on the on the website about the guy walking down the alley, and he okay, do I just go off and just leave it alone? And it's like, oh well, you decide you're going to go home and you're going to have a nice bath, and then you're going to go you're going to go to bed early. The end. But then you go down the alley, and then you check the dumpster, and you're like, okay, what's happening here? And it turns out it's a puppy, and now you have a lifelong friend. Like it is. So you could with a chooser, I think you can you have the limitations, but then you also open yourself up to, okay, how do we get here? And in that process, once you have where you're starting and where you're going to end and the different options for the ending, if you're going in a certain direction, you're like, well, that doesn't necessarily make sense for this part. You could probably put it with the other part, or you can have them line up where, at some point, somehow you go several different parts and they both end up at like a diner, and that'll be your refresh point.
Yeah, I think that was the idea. I was going to come, like, sort of have my idea, like if I was going to visualize the plan, it would be a diamond shape.
Okay.
But not with one ending, but it's like it sort of weaves out. But then you get to a point where 2 or 3 of them actually join up. So you've got different ways to get to the same point. And nothing happens previously that would make it so this point doesn't work.
Right.
So it's sort of, you have, I suppose it's almost, I can't even think what it might look like. Like to visualize it, I'm just thinking sort of like women's earrings where they sort of taper out, and then you've got prongs that sort of end. They join up at some point. I don't know.
Yeah, I get it though.
It makes sense in my head anyway.
I get it. I'm right there with you. So you got another person who's in your head. So
yeah, cool. That's good. That's good. We think like everyone else who's listening is like, what the hell are they talking about?
It's fine.
But it makes sense to us, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, it's a great, like it's an idea. It's quite an exciting idea. It's just I wish I had the time and the creative juices to make it work. It's something Tom and I do a lot. Is we have really good ideas for things, and it just never comes to fruition.
Oh, I get that.
Yeah, and it's frustrating. I wish I could do it. I could do it, I think.
Yeah, it's just finding time, and it's just finding, because my big issue is like I come up with ideas all the time. In fact, on my phone, I use the Notes app, and I actually have like 4 or 5 different story ideas that I've come up with while at work. Because of course, I have these ideas while at work. I can't sit down at the computer and just
when you can't sit and write them. Yeah.
And so then when I get home, I'm like, oh, I'm exhausted. My cat's bugging me for attention. And then, I got to eat. I'm going to binge on a little bit of Netflix, catch up on my stories. And then by 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, oh, damn, I need to go to bed and then wake up so I can just do it all over again. But then there are those times when it's like, okay, I need to really just, hunker down, sit down and do this. And that's when you get like the story. I happened to wake up yesterday morning and I'd had this idea Friday night to do this whole story for my mom for Mother's Day. And I was like, okay, I've got this idea. And then I was very antsy. So the first thing that I did when I woke up yesterday was I'm just going to write this story and just, write it. And about an hour and a half later, I had it done. So
yeah, and that's the one thing I keep reading is like how to write. And I think there's like not necessarily an exercise, but they're like, just get up in the morning. The first thing you do is write for half an hour or something like that. And then it doesn't matter what comes out. You're just practicing your writing. It doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to be good. And they do like I can't remember what the name of it is now. It's sort of like where it comes off the top of your head. It's sort of something to do with your thoughts. Oh God, what's it called?
I know what you're talking about, and the term just free flow.
It's like free flowing. Yeah, there's another name. There's a specific name for it, isn't it? Where you sort of just the first thing that comes out, you just write it. But anyway, I know what it is. I know what I mean. Again, it's another thing where we know what each other means. Nobody else does. It's good. It's good. It's fine. It's fine. We know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You were saying about this whole D&D idea, like your friend was saying about this Dungeons and Dragons thing.
Mm-hmm.
Was it a podcast he listens to? Did you say?
It was. Yeah, it was the unofficial Burger King podcast or role-playing podcast, or they called it like B Corp or something like that. And basically it was just this ridiculous story. But I mean, listening to that, I was like, okay, I could definitely see how you would get inspired by this. I mean, we could definitely do it better, but it was an interesting idea.
Yeah, I think it's really quite cool where people come up with sort of like they take like Dungeons and Dragons, which is supposed to be like fantasy dragons and things like that, and just set it in like a real normal everyday thing. Like sort of like it's set in a Burger King,
right?
Like, it's just really interesting. But I was just thinking, there was a guy I've talked about before. I met him. Me and Liz met him at a convention at RTX 2 years ago now. Called Alex, and he's a YouTuber. He's a reactor.
I've actually seen a couple of his videos when I've been looking up Doctor Who clips and whatnot.
Yeah. He does Doctor Who, but he's also part of like this bigger group of like reactors, and they have a channel. I think they have a channel, or it's on somebody's channel, where they actually do like a D&D campaign where they take it in turns. It's called Reactors and Realms. So they're all like YouTube reactors. And like they all sort of take turns in running a campaign, but they write the campaign themselves.
Right.
And it's like a really involved thing, and they're sort of playing it, and you can see them all at the bottom of the screen. And I've watched one or two of them. I've never managed to catch one like at the start of the campaign, so I've not been able to follow it all through. But these guys get like really involved and into their characters, and they actually get emotionally attached to it.
Oh yeah.
Like, you watch them and like they'll be crying as they're playing because they're so involved in it, and it's just great like seeing like these people like so creative just come up with these stories that are really intricate and involved, and it's really cool. It's really cool to watch, and we will have him on here one day. We will. We keep saying it to everyone. We will. The weird thing is, Tom and I, we have like lots of people saying, "Yeah, we'll come on," and we just don't want to sort of put people out. Like we don't want to sort of say, "Oh yeah, do you want to come on?" Like it's that weird awkwardness like Tom and I have, where we can't take compliments. We don't want to ask people to come on because we don't want to sort of put them out.
Right.
And we love having people on.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's so weird.
Yeah.
We're weird.
That's why I listened to it.
I'm glad you were available.
So. Oh yeah. Well, I'm glad you hit me up. I'm glad you took me up on it. This has been fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I've really enjoyed having you on again, and it doesn't happen very often. We always say we're going to have you back on, and then it's like a year before we do. And again, with like you guys over in the States when we've had you on, it's just that getting it to work, because when Tom and I usually record at like sort of 10, 11 a.m. On a Sunday morning, you guys are probably just crawling out of bed. So it's difficult to get you guys on, because there's another podcast there in California, so it should actually be a little bit easier, because there's that sort of, as we're waking up, they're just going to bed thing.
Right.
It's not quite, but you know, the Dark Angels and Pretty Freaks guys that we spoke about.
Yeah,
we spoke about them last time.
Yeah, you did.
We want to get those guys on, or at least one of them anyway, because it's just the wholesome thing. They're just so nice and so sweet. I'm
going to start listening to them after your recommendation from the previous episode.
Yeah, they're really nice. But then they've sort of put a hiatus on the podcasting and sticking with YouTube, I think. But well, you know, it happens. The best of us. It happens to the best of us.
It does.
Everyone goes by the wayside eventually, which is sad.
Yeah. Everyone except Adam.
I'm just sort of downing, like putting it right on a downer, aren't I?
Oh well.
But no,
it's good. it makes up for the, it makes it worthwhile to have these, a year and a half passes. And it's like, not a lot has happened in a year and a half, but hey, we're meeting up, we're having a reunion, and we're back, and, fresh take on things and fresh voice, and, able to come in when you need it. So.
Yeah.
It's
so
good.
let me get from an American's perspective quickly, actually.
Okay.
Like we don't want to bring it up every episode, but we tend to.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your view as an American of the state of British politics at the minute? Or European politics, let's be honest. This is what we're talking about.
I mean, watching the stuff on Twitter, it's pretty much blurring with everything that we're going through right now. It's just a whole clusterfuck of things. Right now we're dealing with the whole heartbeat bill over here,
right?
Where
is
it's
that
like
an abortion thing?
Yes,
I don't think I've heard of that.
It's the whole thing where it's basically once a woman gets pregnant, that whatever is inside them counts as a human life, and abortion will basically be counted as murder. I'm simplifying it a lot, but basically that's what. It's basically just going back. We're reverting back to the days where women's bodies were property, and it's disgusting. And so. I like I said, I see things on Twitter where everything that's going on in British politics, and I'm just like, I don't even know what side of the pond we're on anymore, because it's just, it seems like everything is just kind of,
you see something happen, you're like, you do realize how that's bad for your country, yes?
Exactly.
Like us over here, we're insignificant in the terms of like world politics, and you do realize that's bad. Like you're just shouting at the TV. That it can't be good for you.
You're right. And it's just one of those things where it's like, how is it that you can say the words that are coming out of your mouth and not realize how much of an idiot you are? How
can you
wrong
keep a straight
you are?
face while you're saying that?
What is going on here? Like how? How?
That whole you sort of, when you're saying about that whole abortion bill, like when a baby's heart beats, and you're saying about it's sort of taking ownership of women's body, like sort of making them objects or possessions. I think, that's messed up, isn't it? Because then like the government's going to be able to tell a woman, you can do this, you can't do that with your body.
Well, they're basically
they do anyway to an extent, like where you have like a time limit on it, but that sort of, in all fairness, it's pretty much a fully formed baby.
Well, it's
obvious, but when it's like cells dividing.
Mm-hmm. Well, they don't take into account the health of the mother. They don't take into account, the health of the child itself. Or the circumstances of the pregnancy, and and I say this, and I have a friend who actually works as an escort at an abortion clinic, and so I've talked to her about this before, and it's just like, as I understand my privilege as a cis white male. It's like, I understand my privilege, so I have an opinion on this, but my opinion doesn't really matter, except to be an ally. But it's just one of those things where I guess the verbiage. They've gotten it so far where they're putting bills in place where because this bill was passed in Georgia, and basically they're putting stipulations on it where it's like, even if you go out of state, they will consider that as premeditated, and they're putting other stipulations on it. But the very ridiculous, delusional idea is that they think that just because they've banned the access, or the public access, the legal access to this procedure, that it's just going to stop. It's just going to not happen anymore. And that's really the big concern, where it's just because you don't, there's no place, outside and in public to do it, it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen anymore. And that's the big issue. It's for the health of the woman, the health of the child, and all that. But again, on the other side of it, it comes down to this whole, if you're so pro-life, why don't you worry about the people who are actually alive? Why don't you worry about the people that you're putting in cages? Why don't you worry about the people that, are living in other countries, war-torn countries, and you're closing up the borders, you're making it illegal for them to come in and be refugees. It's a ridiculous time we're in. And
even like the people living in poverty in your country down the street and things like that is, but hey, let's worry about let's worry about getting more people into the country,
Right.
in terms of like through banning abortions and things like that. And like, you know, it's one of those things. I have very specific sort of views on abortion. Like, it's one of those things. It's like, I am pro-choice to a point. And it's one of those. It's me, like the classic. You've listened to it on the podcast. I am the fence sitter. I won't be like strongly. I won't have strong opinions one way or the other.
Right.
Yeah, I'm a fence sitter, but yeah, it's sort of like making it so you can't do it at all now. It's going to push people, as you say, to find alternative ways of doing it, which are more dangerous. Like the way it'll be the ways people used to do it when it was illegal before, or when it was sort of like it wasn't a procedure. Like that, people had ways of doing it before, which were even more dangerous. That you could end up ending 2 lives instead of just one that arguably isn't a life yet.
Right.
You know, it's messed up. That's messed up. I didn't even know about that one.
Yeah, it's been
crazy.
So it's definitely been a very stressful and emotional week for especially the women that I know just personally. You just talking to them and just trying to be as best of an ally as I can be. Sharing posts and things like that. So,
I mean, people that work in those clinics have a hard time as it is with the constant protests and abuse being hurled at them. And, it's probably not as traumatic as for the women that are going there for the abortions under whatever circumstance it is, like having abuse hurled at them every time they walk in and walk out of there.
Right.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, it's and all in and not to go too far down the rabbit hole of it. These are people who claim to be Christians. These are people who claim to be, adhering to the Word of God. And it's like, I'm a spiritual person myself, but even I know from a Christian angle, it's like, that wasn't the point. It's you're just highlighting specific points of the of the written text that you thought. You like the best, but not taking into context everything else. But anyway,
hate. It's easy to hate, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah,
it's easy to hate. It's it's more of a Christian thing to love your enemy, is it?
Yeah,
not?
I mean, and that's the point. Yeah, and
that's the whole point.
And it's judge not lest you be judged, but also they're too busy to have missed that themselves with other people's business. So
So anywho, we took it there. We took it there, as we always will. But I will say again, Andrew, thank you very much for joining us. And we will have you on again as a trio. Get Tom involved in it again.
Yeah,
we'll have an agenda. We will have an agenda next time.
I didn't think we did too bad. We got about an hour in.
I enjoyed myself. Good. Yeah, no, I enjoyed myself. I could keep going, but I'm aware that, my family are upstairs sleeping and I'm here shouting at the microphone talking to you. But
I appreciate their patience with that. So
yeah. Liz sends her best anyway. She told me to tell you.
I appreciate that. Reciprocate that for me, please.
I will do. And and my daughter's just come down and said, "Can you be quiet?"
Sorry.
He said sorry. We're finishing now anyway. Yeah, I know it's me because you can't hear. Anyway, let's not get into this. I'll talk to her in a minute. But so I will say for this episode of Anywhere But Here, I have been Ant.
And I've been Andrew.
Bye.
Bye.